before we get to questions.
All right. Well, first, I just want to say how excited we are to add Baker to the quarterback room. I think this competition will be great throughout the training camp, and I just think it makes us better as a team. There's a lot of people I want to thank. Well, first off, Andrew Berry with the Cleveland Browns, who was absolutely awesome throughout the process. He's a good friend, easy to talk to. We spent a lot of time together on the phone, so thank you to Andrew. Thank you to the Browns organization. Also want to thank Tom Mills, the agent for Baker Mayfield, who was good to work with. I know he and Samir had some conversations. I talked to Tom a lot through the process, and also to Baker. Baker was great. He really wanted to be a part of this organization, and so that says a lot about him. But I'm just excited about the quarterback room in general and the direction we're headed, and excited for the season coming up. So with that, I'll open it up.
Great, and we can go ahead and start with let's go with Steve Reed, please.
Hey, Scott, hope your summer's going well. Hey, just can you kind of give us an idea of how do you view this quarterback situation? I mean, is it Baker's job? Is it an open competition? How do you guys view this quarterback situation right now?
No, this is open competition. The reason why we added Baker was to make the group better as a whole. Our whole philosophy is to add competition, not just in the quarterback room, but every position. So if we see an opportunity where we can get better, where we can add a player that it makes sense for us as a team, makes sense for us financially, makes sense for us from an addition standpoint, we're going to do that. And with Baker being out there having the conversations, it made sense for us. I think the competition is going to make Sam better. Sam really had a nice spring for us, stepped up, showed a lot of edge, threw the ball really well, and I think competition would be good for him, be good for PJ. It's good for Matt Corral, the young guy that's going to be in the room learning, and it's good for Baker. This is a fresh start for him. So I think overall, it's a very healthy situation for us all to be in.
All right, Joe Person, then Will Palachi.
Hey, Scott, good to see you. I had two quick ones. First off, last year when you guys traded for Sam, you very quickly picked up that fifth-year option. Was there any talk with Tom Mills and Baker about anything beyond 2022?
No, our whole focus is bringing Baker in to compete with Sam. We're going to take it up to training camp. This is as far as we're going to take it, and we'll let it play out throughout the season. We'll make decisions based later in the season, whether it's November, December. At that point, once there's a track record behind them and this offense and this organization.
And then in the 6 days or so since the trade was announced, have you fielded any calls from teams asking if Sam was available?
No, no teams have called. And Sam, we're not looking to move Sam at all. I said this last week. Sam's very much a part of this competition. I mean, I think this will be great. It's great for Baker. And it's great for Sam. And, I think they're both going to rise and play their best football they have.
Scott, hope you're doing well. At what point did you determine that the group of quarterbacks that you had ending minicamp was either untenable or that you decided you wanted to add to it?
I think that's one of the conversations when we first sat down after the season last year. What do we need to do to get better? What is it going to take for us to win the NFC South? And quickly we said, hey, the offensive line, we need to improve this. We went out, hired James Campen, brought in, Icky as our first round draft pick, signed, guys in free agency, adding other players in the draft. And so that was a real priority, but also, other positions. So it's not just an offensive line. It's not just quarterback, but quarterback was one that we wanted to stabilize. We wanted to add competition to the Sam Darnold mix. We drafted a quarterback. So just like receiver, we did that receiver. We've done other positions. It's all about adding competition all around. And but offensive line and quarterback were the two spots we really wanted to address.
And if I could follow up just quickly, this is similar to Joe's question, but a little different. How open are you to one of those two guys among the veterans, Darnold and or Baker, being your quarterback beyond 2022?
I just want to take it just short term right now. Let them compete in camp, take it throughout the season. We'll make the best decision for the team later on. We're not going to commit to anything right now.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to Will Kunkel, Scott Fowler, and then Ashiba Rojas.
Hey, Scott. Good to see you, man.
I can see you.
Who came up with the idea, or how did it kind of come to fruition that Baker would take that $3.5 million cut, and was that kind of the final move that made this possible?
You know, this is a really long process. You know, I went throughout, over a couple months, and it really started off with Andrew Berry and myself, talking about what's it going to take to make a deal? What is the right price to pay? Who's involved? What's the competition here? What are we bidding against? And so there were a lot of conversations, a lot of people involved in those conversations. When it came down to it, there was a gap, a money gap in there, and it had to be bridged somehow. And so, we approached Tom Mills at one point, and that took a while to get up to the $3.5 million. That's a lot of money for a player to give up and guaranteed money. And it just shows Baker's competitiveness and willingness and wanting to be here. So it did take a while, but that did help bridge the gap. But we all gave in the end. Cleveland gave, Baker gave, and we gave. And I think it ended up being a really good deal for all involved.
And now that the deal is finally done, did you have a deadline of when you were willing to trade for a quarterback, or were you open for it all season if need be?
No, in this particular instance, with Baker, we said the July 4th weekend, and then we got more specific with the date and time on July 5th. And so that really kind of having a deadline helped, move the deal along. Obviously all deadlines, spur some action. So that really helped. But yeah, it was the July 4th weekend is what we had set really a few weeks back, but then we pinned it down exactly to the time and date.
Hey, Scott. One quick one and one more global one. The quick one being, is 70% the right figure on snaps he must take to make it from a fifth to a fourth?
Yes, it's 70% is the threshold that he has to meet.
Okay. And the more big one is that Chris Mortensen in March, one of really the most respected NFL reporters around, reported that the Browns were going to break up with Baker because they wanted, quote, an adult in the quarterback room. I just wondered your assessment of Baker's maturity level at this point and his work ethic.
Well, I think anytime, you're making a transaction, you always do your homework. You talk to as many people as you can. And in this instance, we reached out to a lot of people that knew Baker, that were there when they drafted Baker, that were in the organization. I had coaches that have coached him in the past. They actually called me unsolicited to go to bat for him. And so we did do a lot of work. And in the end, it all came back to this is a fiery, competitive guy. He wants to win. He wants to be great. And, I think as an organization, we embrace that attitude. We like guys that are like that. This will be a fresh start for him here. It doesn't matter what he's done in the past. It's what's he going to do when he gets in this quarterback room? How's he going to work with Sam? How's he going to work with our coaching staff? And what's it going to be moving forward? But as far as anything in the past, a lot of people really want to bat for Baker. And I think there are a lot of circumstances of why things happen. And obviously a lot of things are said that get out in the media that aren't portrayed exactly how, or isn't exactly how it happened. But we're very comfortable with Baker. We're excited to add him to the room and look forward to working with him.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah.
Hi, Scott. So you just kind of explained, why you guys chose Baker. So my question to you is just, what does the organization have in place to make sure Baker is comfortable in this transition?
This is actually a tough time of year right now, just because it's the dead period. So there's only so much you can do with a player. You can send them the playbook, but you're really limited on, coaches having contact with them right now. So we're very fortunate that he's been in a system with James Campen, our offensive line coach, where he's familiar with some of the offensive line calls. I was down with Campen maybe an hour or so ago talking about that. And I talked to Baker about that. And that'll help with that transition. It's not going to be totally foreign when he gets here. There is going to be some new verbiage that he has to learn from McAdoo's offense, but a lot of the concepts are going to be somewhat similar in that West Coast-based system. So we are limited in what we can do right now, but I think once we get to training camp, it'll be, I don't want to say it'll be easy for him to pick it up, but there'll be some familiarity with it when he gets there.
Let's go to Skylar Callahan and then Varun.
Hey Scott, hope you're doing well. So for what this means for Matt, I know you guys have been wanting to add to this quarterback room for a while, someone that could really push Sam for that starting job. So with this trade now official, does this kind of mean that this is kind of almost going to be like a red shirt year for Matt?
You know, we'll see how it goes, how this all plays out. The one good thing about Matt, there is a transition from, this college offense that he was into the NFL offense, especially McAdoo offense, where there's a lot of verbiage, and this will allow him the chance to really learn at his own pace, learn from a couple of pros in the room, and Sam and Baker, having PJ in that room as well. And when it's time for him to get out there and play, he can get out there and earn that job if he's ready. But it's going to be on him to learn and to play well when he gets there. But right now, our focus is on getting all of our quarterbacks up to speed so we can play good quality football this year at that position.
Hey Scott, Varn Shankar, the Charlotte Observer. I wanted to ask, you talked about this being a very long process for you guys. Was the holdup more because of trying to negotiate the draft pick compensation, or was it more on the monetary side of things?
Really, the draft pick compensation came first. In order for us to talk to Baker and kind of take that next step, we had to work with Cleveland to figure out what the right number was. Obviously, we had talked during the draft. Those things have gotten out. The compensation was higher at that point, and now that it changed with Matt Corral being added to the group, us going through the spring, Sam playing really well throughout the spring, we just didn't have that urgency to necessarily go out there and add someone right away. So we worked through the compensation. We reached the fifth going to the fourth in 2 years. So we thought that was fair. And then once that happened, Andrew Berry granted us permission to reach out and talk to Tom Mills, to talk to Baker, to try to figure out what can we do to make this work. And so we had to work through the financials part of it, but really it was about a month and a half, 2-month process from compensation to financials to getting this done.
And then what would you like to see from Baker over, the next month or so as you get into training camp? What would you like to see if the transition he's making is, starting to pick up?
Yeah, just like we would any quarterback, whether it's Sam or anyone else, just take command of the offense, make it their own, own it, have everything down. Don't turn the ball over, just make smart decisions with the football. And that's what we want out of that position.
Okay, let's go to Phil Orban, then Chris Jenkins, please.
Hey, Scott, getting back to kind of the timeline that you had mentioned, in those month and a half, 2 months, kind of that long process, was there ever a time when you thought maybe you had a deal and it maybe fell through, or maybe that you had moved on from the deal and it was dead and it came back to life? I mean, what was that kind of, what have the last 2 months been like in that regard?
Yeah, the initial talks happened prior to the draft, right before the draft started. And then once we got to the second day of the draft, Andrew and I just said, hey, let's put this on hold. I talked to Matt and Mr. Tepper, and I think both organizations said, hey, let's get through this weekend. Let's get through minicamp, and then we'll pick it up later once we get into OTAs. And so we did that at that point. We did our weekly check-in calls. There was really no urgency to get it done. We wanted to see what we had here at our place. They wanted to go through the process on their end. And so really there was no urgency. Andrew and I checked in, like I said, once a week. And then as we got into it later, it became more frequent, every 2 to 3 days. Then it was every day, and like any progress. So that was kind of just the whole, how it all played out.
Hey, Scott, Chris Jenkins with Charlotte Bob. Congratulations on marking another item off the list. Just curious if you had that list, what that new list of priorities may be for you, or do you feel like you're more in a wait and see mode for more changes for player personnel leading up to training camp?
From a organization standpoint, I think we're always looking to add competition, like I said. So we will tinker with the roster here and there. Obviously, we want our guys that are here to feel comfortable. We like the guys that are here. We feel like we can go into the season with them. But if there's an opportunity to add, we'll do that. I think if you're asking specifically, I think we'd look at defensive line, maybe a big body in the middle, maybe another pass rusher. We added a punt return guy. That was a big part of our list with Andre. So we like the roster where it's at. We'll get in training camp and see what we need at that point. Obviously get with our personnel staff and Matt and his coaching staff, and we'll make those decisions at that point.
All right, let's go to Nick Carboni and then Brett Jensen, please.
Good afternoon, Scott. Obviously, it was a non-throwing shoulder injury that Baker suffered early last year. When you looked at his year, how did that injury, in your mind and evaluation, affect his throwing motion as a whole, if at all? And what led to a down year for him from the year before?
Yeah, so that's a really good point. It wasn't just the shoulder injury, the left shoulder. He also had a foot injury, a rib injury, and shoulder injury. So he was really banged up last season. So we went back and watched tape from a couple years ago, and he was really good in 2020. He had some good tape earlier in his career. Last year was just a down year for him, and I know he got with Jeff Christensen, his quarterback coach, who's done a really good job with a lot of good NFL quarterbacks. And they just went back to the basics, started working with their footwork, their mechanics, and I think he's really tightened that up. I think Baker's really confident and comfortable where he's at right now, and I think we're gonna get the best version of him going forward.
Hey, Scott, I'm just curious. From the onset, it looks like you guys, from the outside looking in, it looks like you guys really weren't comfortable with Sam Darnold. I mean, you guys were in on the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, and these talks have been going on for a while. So what does this say about Sam and your comfort level with him that you guys have been trying to bring in another quarterback? And will you have a say so, or is it all Matt's decision on who starts the season at quarterback? And if there's a mid-season change at quarterback, will you have a say so in that?
I think our entire staff, I would say so. Matt, obviously will make the final call. He's going to work with Sean Ryan and Ben McAdoo, myself, and Pat and Dan, and we'll make the best decision for the team at that time. And obviously Mr. Tepper will be involved. And as far as Sam, we need to stabilize that position. Like I said, that was one of our priorities in the offseason to do. We brought in Matt Corral. The thing about Sam is he played well to start the season last year when we protected him. He had 3 good games to start the year, and we're like, wow, okay. So when we protect him, he takes care of the ball. He can play good football, but we needed to add another body to the mix, another NFL, vet to the mix to help stabilize that position, so we can go into this year and feel good about the direction this team is going. We really feel good about our defense. We like the skill position on offense. I think we have a rebuilt offensive line. Christian's gonna have a big year for us. So, just having another position at the quarterback or another body at the quarterback position, someone like Baker to go with Sam, was really important to us. So yes, that was somewhat of a priority going into it.
All right, let's go ahead with Steven Toronto, Joe Person, and Josh Graham.
Scott, on the subject of Baker's background, you've probably surmised that he has a pretty strong personality, and there have been times in his career where that's included clashes with his head coach, whether that's on the surface or things that are implied, things that get out in the media. As you did your homework on Baker and his personality, how much of it was ensuring that he and Coach Rule were compatible, and how confident are you that they are?
I love the fact that he's competitive and fiery. I come from a place in Seattle where we had a lot of those personalities, and I think that's a key component to a team that wins, is having guys that are fiery, that are emotional, that do want to win. That just means so much to them. Everyone that we talked to went to bat for Baker. They said a lot of good things about him. We understood where he was coming from, and to us, we're not gonna just sit and say this is who he is. It's a fresh start when he walks in the building here. We know what we have. We know what we're going to do with him moving forward. And he's a guy that loves football. Obviously Matt loves football. Our coaches love football. We're going to work with him going forward, and it's a fresh start for him. But I like the mix and the personality we're bringing in.
Scott, what was your message to Sam at the completion of the trade?
The completion of when?
The trade.
I did not have a conversation with Sam. Matt did. It all broke a little early last week on Wednesday. We were trying to get through the physical on Thursday to really say anything. So that really sped up the process of informing some of our core players, the leaders on this team, Sam being one of those. So Matt reached out to him. I think he had a little trouble reaching him on the phone initially. sent a text and then they spoke. My understanding of it, Sam has embraced this. He's embraced the competition. I know he's reached out to Baker. So I think they're gonna have a good relationship going forward. I don't know how much they knew each other in the past, but I think they're two winners that just want to work together and compete for this job.
And because we're not getting a Matt today on the Zoom, I would direct this to you. How do you envision the reps being split at first practice in Spartanburg moving forward?
You know what? I have not talked to Matt about that directly yet. So that'll be interesting to see. I think, Baker is obviously going to be a little bit behind just on the playbook from where Sam was. But I don't want to speculate. That's probably a better question for Matt once you get to training camp. But I think they're going to be fairly even at some point just to let the competition play out.
Okay, we'll finish up with Josh Graham.
Scott, kind of on that note, how comfortable are you going into the season with 3 quarterbacks on the depth chart and going into your conversations with Baker when that was allowed? What was it about him that won you over?
Yeah, well, with PJ Walker, that before, I think what I really liked about Baker is just you could feel the intensity. He wants somewhere where he can go, he can prove himself and have the opportunity to earn a position to start. And so I think anytime you do that, it's great to add someone like that.
Great. Thank you, Scott. We'll let you go here at media. I'll place you in the waiting room shortly, and then we'll bring you back when Baker is ready to go. Scott.
All right. Thank you, guys.
questions with you guys. So we'll go ahead and get started with questions. We'll start with let's start with Steve Reed and then go to Josh Graham.
Hey, Baker, Steve Reed from the Associated.
Muted yourself, Steve.
Sorry about that. Hey, Baker, Steve Reed from the Associated Press. Welcome to Charlotte, first of all. I just wonder if you could speak to, this situation and coming to Charlotte. And, when you look back at Cleveland, is there any animosity on your part?
Appreciate the welcoming. No, I'm extremely excited for this new start in Charlotte. Obviously, I think it's kind of known now. Some familiar faces there, some people that I know, and a lot more to meet. And it's just an exciting time for myself and my family, and just this new chapter. No animosity towards Cleveland. It's a good football town that gave me the first 4 years of my career, and thankful for those trials and tribulations, all the challenges, a lot to learn from and look back on and reflect. But just really focused on right now and being a Carolina Panther, and pumped up to do so.
That said, how much are you looking forward to that week one?
Anytime you get to put the pads on, for the first time, it's live fire. It's always a great time. Obviously, it's going to be a special one. It's going to be a home game and playing against a former team. A similar situation of what I've gone through in the past when transferring from college to college. So got to handle it the best way possible. And, my job is to put our team in the best position to win. And however I can help do that, that's what I'm going to do.
Welcome, Baker. Josh Graham, WSJS. Given where Cleveland was when you arrived there and really the heights that you achieved not even a couple of years ago, how surprised are you about the way this offseason shook out?
I think, that's why it was surprising for everybody. Pretty unexpected, but, if I'm focused on the past, then I'm not doing my job, and, being a Carolina Panther now. So like I said, I'm grateful for my time there. Shocked. I'd say it was, pretty much the only way to describe it, but you roll with the punches and you got to move forward. This is a test of adversity and how I'm going to handle it and how I can move forward and be the best teammate possible with our new home. And I'm looking forward to it.
And I'm sure you hear what people say publicly, even if you try to drown it out. Do you feel you get enough credit for what you did with Cleveland in that playoff run a couple of years back?
You know what? Cleveland's a special place, and there's teammates and friendships and bonds that we all contributed to that special run, and to help turn that around. There's guys that lifelong friendships that I'll have that are very special to me, near and dear to Emily and I, that we'll never forget about. But I'm never a me guy. I'm a team first win guy, and we had a good time there, and I'm looking forward to being able to contribute with Carolina now.
We're going to go to Will Kunkel and then Scott Fowler, please.
Hey, Baker. Welcome to Charlotte, man.
Thank you.
Here with Fox Charlotte, Queen City News, home of your Carolina Panthers. What kind of went into you taking that $3.5 million pay cut? What was that conversation like? Was that difficult? Was that on the table from the start? You kind of walk me through that.
Yeah, for me, that process was definitely interesting. I don't think there was any manual for it. You've seen guys give up money and part ways, but it's not very often that it's a guaranteed contract that it happens with. And, for me, it was about the next steps forward, and finding a new place, somewhere that wanted me, somewhere that, that I would be able to go in and compete and have a fresh start somewhere. So that's where that all came from. Not a very easy past couple of months in terms of negotiating and trying to come down to that number. It wasn't the original number, but I let the people that handle that stuff for a living take care of that. And I was just working on, becoming more healthy, just working out and grinding and doing all those things that I can control, and letting the people that that's their forte to do so with that.
And then real quick, Sam reached out to you. What was that conversation like? And were you shocked that he got your number before you got his?
No, I mean, Sam and I, we've known each other for a few years now. Great guy, and just, welcomed me in, had tips where to start looking for houses and all that. Just, no, Sam's a great guy, and looking forward to being in that locker room and that quarterback room with him and competing and challenging each other. And it's going to be special. You know, I think we'll help each other out quite a bit. And no, not shocked at all. That's just who he is. Great guy. You can write whatever story you want about him, but he's a good guy that wants to help his team win and loves football.
Baker, welcome to Charlotte. Scott Fowler from the local paper here, the Charlotte Observer. Coming to Charlotte certainly is a fresh start for you, I'm sure, and I'm sure you didn't come with the idea of being a backup quarterback. So do you anticipate being the starting quarterback here?
Well, I think when you're at any level as high as this in the NFL, nobody has the mentality of being a backup. We're at this level because we compete to be the very best. And that's why Sam's here as well. And that's why Matt Corral just got drafted, and PJ Walker's competed and fought through a lot of adversity as well. And so, you know, my intention is to become the best quarterback I can be, help this team win. And that's why I'm happy to be in Carolina. Is this, you know, I feel like the team's very close to being really, really good. We just have to put the pieces together and come together as a team. And however that happens, you know, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to, you know, fill whatever role is to be expected of me and be a great leader and a great teammate.
And just quick follow-up to that, but speaking of being on the cusp of being really, really good, you've been on a playoff team before, won a playoff game. Does this have the feel to you of a playoff team?
You know, I can't say that for certain yet because I've only talked to guys over the phone. Even when I came in the facility, everybody's on vacation. So, you know, I'm not going to put any predictions out there by any means, but just the feel of the guys that are so welcoming. It feels like there's really good camaraderie. It feels like everybody's on the same page, and that's a great foundation to build something special. So we'll see where we can go with it.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Augustus Stone, followed by Joe Person, and then Will Palachik.
Hey Baker, how are you? I'm Augustus Stone with Panthers.com. Welcome to Charlotte.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, you know, your process getting acclimated to the new playbook, building chemistry, like you said, over the phone. How does that process change when it's sort of, you know, kind of put quickly now with 2 weeks until reporting day for training camp in Spartanburg?
There's a lot of cramming. The past week or so, a few days, ever since becoming a Carolina Panther, it's been a lot of just getting to know everybody, talking over the phone. Finally officially get the playbook today. And so there'll be a lot of studying, a lot of cramming, and we'll also, you know, still working out and doing all that. So it's a pretty hectic couple of weeks right here before training camp, but it's so exciting. It's, you know, the start of this new chapter, and you know, trying to balance out how much to, you know, reach out to guys, get to know them as teammates, while also realizing that I have to know my job in and out better than most. So there's a lot of balance and priorities to be had.
Hey, Baker, good to see you. It's Joe Person. I'm with The Athletic in Charlotte. And I have two. I'll just fire the first one at you.
Yep.
Scott Fitter was just on here, and he talked about how he really likes kind of your fiery, competitive nature that some people, you know, have certain avenues have sort of tried to use against you, I guess you'd say. Did you learn anything in Cleveland that whole 4 years there that, you know, will you do anything differently, I guess, as you come to Charlotte?
I mean, I think there's definitely, there was a lot of lessons and experiences that I learned from when it comes to, you know, keeping some things in house, but also being myself. That's why I was drafted there, was to help turn that place around and to be the best version of myself. I think it's easy to get lost in, you know, stories and media at the same time. So it's tricky to balance, but yeah, that's the conversations, the multiple conversations that I've had with Scott and Coach Rule about, they want me to be myself, you know, be a good leader, be a great teammate, but I've always been vocal and being able to bring guys and elevate them. So there's balance, but that competitive nature, that'll never go away. If I do that, then I shouldn't be playing anymore. So that's what's gotten me here, helped get me here, and I'll have to continue to do that.
And then the follow-up, that there's been talk that you and Sam potentially might try to do a little sort of throwing session or throwing camp before training camp. Are you going to have time to do that? And do you think that's going to come together?
Yeah, I think that's pretty important for for myself, especially to get some reps with some of these guys I have never thrown with, and just to get to know them more importantly. So just whether it's, one throwing session before training camp and just having a couple meals and sitting down with the guys, I think that's so vital to building chemistry, and just talking through things, making sure we're on the same page and having that great relationship to where, if there's critiques, it's not personal. It's all for the betterment of the team. And I want to have that open relationship with these guys.
Hey, Baker, Will Pelagic from WFNZ Radio, the sports talk station here in Charlotte. A lot of the analysis I hear from people who've seen you play is that all they need is the 2020 Baker, and this could be a playoff team. This could be a big, big year for the Panthers. What was it about, the 2020 Baker Mayfield version that you feel like you have to bottle up to try and bring into this year? I know health is a big part of it, but I guess what do you need to reclaim in your game in order to put this team in the best foot forward?
For me, freedom of, making sure what I'm seeing at the line of scrimmage and putting ourselves in the best position possible. I think based on my conversations with Coach McAdoo and Coach Rule, just, if you make an audible, you change a play, you better have an explanation and a reasoning why, and we're going to be aggressive. And so for me, that's that mindset that I've always had is put our guys in the best position to win. If there's a one-on-one, trust our guys to go make a play. If they load the box up, let's throw it. If they want to check out and play coverage, let's run the ball. And it's that mindset of being free and, putting our guys in the best position possible to win. When it comes to the 2020, I think it's an interesting time period because we were learning a playbook during COVID and during the pandemic from afar doing Zoom meetings. So for me, there was a little bit of learning curve with that, but at a certain point halfway through that year, I just let it go and started playing ball. And for me, that was just being myself and being a great teammate.
And secondly, and you touched on this with Augustus' question a little bit, but how would you calculate the difficulty of trying to learn this offense basically with 2 weeks to go before training camp and so that you're not that far behind where Sam is from an aptitude standpoint going into Spartanburg?
You know what? Fortunately, it comes from an unfortunate circumstance where I've learned 4 different playbooks in 4 years. So it's not like this is my first time around having to learn something new. Obviously, the time crunch is the difference, but it's mostly about terminology. Just getting the new formations, the names of that down, the different names for the concepts, and just comparing that and making it all similar for me, and really just making those comparisons and continuing to grow in that. Luckily, I have a history with James Campen, the O-line coach, so I know his terminology. And so that's probably, I'm very thankful for that. That would be the hardest one, is if it was a complete new offensive line system, protection schemes and all that, that'd be very difficult. So I'm looking forward to being able to continue that with Coach Campen and spreading my knowledge with that.
Thank you, Baker.
Thank you.
We'll go to Trayvon Miles, Deshaun Brown, and then Nick Carboni, please.
Hey, Baker. Welcome to Carolina. Trayvon Miles from
Appreciate
ABC 11 in Raleigh, Durham. I saw that you said that you known Christian for a while, back for 2015. I was wondering if you had spoke to him, if you spoke to anybody else on the offensive side of the ball, and what do you think about those weapons that you're coming into and ahead on this team?
Yeah, first of all, I think the team has a ton of great weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, defense has played great, but for me, I've talked to most of the guys in the offense, almost all of them, and it's a lot of talent. There's a lot of mouths and hands to be fed, which is exciting. And obviously, improvements on the O-line, bringing guys in, it's going to be competitive. I just think it's all headed in the right direction to have a very competitive offensive team, and that's great. Anytime you have competition inside the building, it makes everybody better. And when it comes to Christian, he's a more on the quiet side, soft-spoken guy, but works his tail off, and had a relationship with him since 2015, going back to the ESPN College Awards show, and had lunch with him, just randomly, and connected and had a friendship ever since. Just a special guy, cares about his teammates, cares about winning a ton, and that's something that we definitely clicked on, and I'm very thankful to be able to have that relationship continue now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Baker. My name is Deshawn Brown. I am with the ABC affiliate here in Charlotte. Welcome.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, we heard from GM Scott Fitterer a few moments ago mentioning essentially the references the team has gotten regarding your character and everyone going to bat for you. And I'd also read where you shared you're excited for your teammates to get to know the real you. How would you describe what potentially has been misunderstood or where people misinterpret who you are?
I don't think it's a misinterpretation. I think it's just a lack of being in the building and being around me when I'm going through this work process and having fun playing this game of football that I love so much. You know, it's sometimes authenticity and playing with a passion can be, you know, opinionated and taken for what it's worth. But, you know, I only care about the guys and the people within our building, of how I treat them, you know, the sacrifices that we make for each other on a day-to-day basis. You know, we spend a lot of times away from our families together to work for a common goal. And that's a special bond that not many get to experience. It's very different from a normal workplace. And so for me, it's all about sacrificing for each other and, you know, putting that respect up front and foremost. It's about respect, knowing that you take care of each other, they're going to take care of you. And it's just a, you know, a mutual relationship. And so love this game of football and, you know, blessed to be able to play it. But those misinterpretations or however you want to call it, that's quite frankly, I don't care. Yeah, I care about the opinions within our building because we're fighting for the same goal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Baker, Nick Carboni from NBC in Charlotte. Welcome.
Thank you.
Two, but one really quick one. I know it's number 6 has always been important to you. It's worn now by new punter Johnny Hecker. Has that been a thought to maybe work something out with him to get that, or would you be open to wearing something else?
I guess it's time to break the news. I made a deal, did my own negotiating with Johnny. Obviously, when it comes to a 4-time All-Pro, had to ask permission. You know, was willing to make those sacrifices, and he's a guy that. He's got a chip on his shoulder as well, you know, undrafted free agent, spent his whole career with the Rams, and now he's got a chip on his shoulder. And no, I've had fun getting to know him over the phone. He seems like a great guy and a great leader. You know, 6 is special to me, not because it was ever my favorite number. It was the number I was given as a walk-on at Texas Tech. And when I transferred, the people at Oklahoma thought it was my favorite number, so they just gave it to me again. And so it's just stuck with me. To me, it kind of symbolizes my story. My history with that. And I truly enjoy being able to represent that. And it's something special to me now, but at first it was not. So I'm thankful for Johnny being reasonable and giving up his number for such a veteran of that many years.
And real quick, how much did your shoulder, even though it was the non-throwing shoulder and some of the other injuries, affect, you know, who you thought you could be as a quarterback last year?
Yeah, when it comes to my shoulder, I'm not one for excuses because I was too stubborn to come out anyway. My throwing motion was extremely violent, so that was probably the most hindering reason why. You know, I've made some small changes and worked with a great QB coach, Jeff Christensen, that he's helped me get back to a form that I haven't thrown the ball this well in a long time, and throwing motion looks a little different, and I'm thankful for that. So. But, you know, when it comes to the shoulder stuff, heard it so early in the year last year, I was doing rehab pretty much the whole season. So all the other smaller muscles in my shoulder were able to help me rehab and recover quickly.
Let's go to Mike Solarte, Sheena Quick, and Brett Jensen.
Hey, Baker. Mike Solarte, Spectre News 1. Welcome to Charlotte. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
The first question I have any of the guys that have been around given you any kind of information about Spartanburg and what to expect down at Camp Wofford?
I've only heard that you better hydrate and you're going to sweat a lot, but I actually, I have family that were raised in Spartanburg. So my aunt and uncle lived there, and they had two girls, my cousins, and they all actually moved to Charlotte. So I got family in Charlotte as well as some familiarity of Spartanburg. I can't say that I've spent a fall camp there yet. So I'm preparing for the worst based on what everybody's saying, and I'm excited about it.
And I'm just trying to keep things light for you because you've had so many serious questions. Have you spoken with your I guess business partners about a new line of commercials with you moving into a new home?
unfortunately, it's not going to happen. I thought it'd be a great idea to do a moving campaign because I think everybody can relate that moving is absolutely zero fun. I don't care who you are. But I think that's a missed opportunity, but I'm just thankful to be able to have this fresh start and moving and have a great team around me to be able to help us out.
Thanks, Baker.
Thank you.
Hi, Baker. Sheena Quick, Fox Sports 1340. Welcome to Carolina. I
Thank
am
you.
traveling today, so I will apologize beforehand if you hear some boarding instructions in the background. But I have a two-part question for you. The first half of that is, you were rehabbing this offseason, and there was so much movement. Can you talk about where you were mentally throughout this and some of the things and practices that you may have acquired to get through this process stronger?
Yeah, for the rehab process, the first portion of it was just about becoming stronger, making sure I recover correctly, because if you don't handle your shoulder injuries, it'll delay it and it'll actually make it worse for you. So the important part was actually resting and trying to slow down a little bit instead of thinking that I could go to sleep one night and wake up and it'd all be better. So taking the recovery process somewhat slow and then ramping it up once I finally felt very, very healthy. And then the mental aspect was, control what I can. This has been an off season that's taught me a lot of patience, a lot about focusing on the priorities and, realizing who's in your corner and, how to prioritize your life and just becoming the best version of myself. And so it's been, not anything of how I drew it up, how it was going to go, but I'm very thankful for it looking back on it and, excited about the future.
What during this process do you feel like is going to make you a better quarterback, better teammate, better man?
Staying patient, realizing that I can't control opinions on the outside, focus on family. And, when it comes time to work, now that I'm actually going to be on a new team and get a new playbook, it's time to grind. Let's get back to those basics, get back to that mentality that I used to have and learn this playbook and go play for my teammates and, represent, where I grew up and in this team and this franchise very well.
Now, before Ryan kicks me out, you mentioned the playbook. I know you're just getting to it today, but your previous knowledge of Ben McAdoo's playbook, what do you see as far as what could be your possible strong suits, especially with the new weapons? Just what is your overall opinion of the offenses that you've seen him run in the past?
I mean, he's coached some of the most efficient offenses in NFL history, some of the most prolific teams, and looking at him, there's ability at the line of scrimmage to take advantage of matchups and take advantage of how teams are really scheming you up. And luckily for us, I think that fits very well with our position group or our offensive line to be able to take advantage that we have so many skill players that are extremely talented. So it's the freedom at the line to be able to let a defense try and guard us a certain way and dictate where we're going to go after that. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the possibilities that we'll learn about each other during training camp.
Thanks, Baker.
Thank you.
Hey, Baker, I'm Brett Jensen with WBT. We're the big news talk station in town. I'm just curious, there's a lot of stories about quarterbacks and NFL players betting on themselves, whether it's taking just a one-year deal. And it seems like you did that by taking the pay cut just to get out of Cleveland to bet on yourself. Sam Darnold's sort of in the same situation right now. You're both at the end of your contract. You both can't be the starters. Do you feel like this is a very important crossroads year for you in terms of your future going forward?
I think a lot of people put so much emphasis on a contract year. Yeah, it's in terms of that timing, it is, but every year is extremely important. Every time you step on the practice field, every time you walk into the building, you're adding to your resume. You're making an impact on what people think and perceive about you for future opportunities, whether it's on the field or off. So every single thing we do is going to be about, becoming a better quarterback, better teammate, better leader. And that's something that I think, Sam and I can both agree on is how do we help this team win? And that's, if there was drama within that room, it's going to permeate through the building. And that's not going to be the case. And we're not going to let that happen.
All right, guys, we're going to take two more to finish up. We'll go to Skylar Callahan and finish with Josh Klein.
Hey, Baker, Skylar Callahan with Sports Illustrated Fan Nation. Welcome to Charlotte. Just
that.
wanted to know how your conversation was with Matt when the deal first came about, and obviously you guys have known each other for a little while now. So just speak on what that relationship has been like over the last few years.
Appreciate that. This is the first Southern accent we've had on here. No, it's been great to get to talk to Coach Rule about Obviously I've played against him in college. There's some history there, and excited about what the future holds, about what he wants out of his team, what he wants and sees out of his quarterbacks, and how to, really lead this team from a quarterback perspective. I'm excited about it. I think he's fiery. He's real passionate. Obviously he's a great speaker, and over the phone, leading up to the negotiations, he had me fired up. So I was ready to come and play already. But I'm looking forward to obviously working with him and doing just more than, besides over the phone, just being there in person and making this franchise better.
Appreciate it, Baker.
Thank you.
Hey, Baker, Josh Klein from the Riot Report. Thanks for cutting short your vacation. You had obviously a really strong connection with the fan base in Cleveland. That's a very passionate, outspoken fan base. What do you expect from your connection here with the fans here in Carolina? And then I have one more quick follow-up after that.
Yeah, I mean, the fans in Cleveland are what make that town so great. It's a special sports town. They care about their Browns, tradition rich, and generations of families that have been Browns fans for life. And so that's what made it so special. And I think I wore my heart on my sleeves. That's how I've always done it, give everything I have. And it's a blue collar town. I'm grateful for those 4 years. And when it comes to moving to Carolina, it's, football is a Southern sport. And so we're there in the Carolinas representing those states, and just ready to represent, gonna see what the Keep Pounding fan base is all about. And I'm excited about it.
And this might be your most important question. What's your opinion on Southern food? And do you have a favorite, anything you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to having my first meal at Bojangles. I haven't had that yet, but I've been told that I need to do that as soon as possible. So I'll probably wait a little bit. It's not exactly on the training camp diet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Baker.
Thank you.
Baker, thank you so much. Media, thank you for attending as well. Have a good rest of the afternoon.
Thank you.